I'm excited to have a special guest on today's Crucial Conversations podcast. And so I want to let you all know this is my dad. I got my dad on today. So I want to introduce Dr. Fenton Richards to the audience. So thanks for coming, Dad.
Well, I'm grateful and thankful to be here. I hope this is really inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll be. No, I mean, we have conversations all the time. This is just an opportunity to have it on camera, have it canonized, shall we say, man. So your life is so interesting, so many different dynamics to it, so many different facets. And so it's going to be fun to just kind of unpack your story and all of the different lessons you've learned along the way. And just, so it'll be fun. It'll be fun. So I meet a lot of people and they wonder, who are the people who, raised you, for various different reasons, both good and bad, but I think it's a great opportunity for you to be able to just to show the person who's behind all of this, man. So I'm excited to have you on here. But let's start from the very beginning. Trinidad. So originally from Trinidad, right? September 24th, 1944. Mm-hmm. Big day. Why don't you tell us about, what was it like growing up in Trinidad? Tell us about your family, siblings, all that. Like, paint a picture of what young Fenton was like.
Well, I was born in a city called San Juan. It's actually San Juan, Juan, Sanjuan, like Puerto Rico, but they pronounce it San Juan. Okay. For some reason, but it was very busy, sort of a middle-class community. People kept coming and going. It's always busy, and so that's where I grew up. That's where all my family lived. Yeah, most of them anyway lived in there, and so it was some beautiful experiences to grow up in a place like that. And so then my mom got employed to the countryside. And I found that to be very interesting because we left the city to go to the country in a heartbeat. And I was like maybe 6, 7 years old or something like that. When I moved, I didn't know. I couldn't care less whether it was country or city or whatever. I just, your mom said this and your dad said that, so that's what you do. Yeah. So we moved and started to grow up in this little town, a little country town, and that's how we were raised. But it did some good things for us because it kept us together as brothers and sisters. I have 2 brothers. Well, one is deceased. My elder brother is deceased, and my 3 sisters are still alive. So there's 6 of us, and we were just happy. We didn't even realize that we were poor. That's amazing. It's only when I came to understand economics, I realized, wait a minute, I was really poor, But anyway, that's how we grew up and everything. So it was a challenge, One of the things is that poverty, and I never realized that, as I said, but poverty is really, it holds you back from so many other things you could do. Plus I was in the country, so that in itself was limited, isolating. No playgrounds, no academic classes, none of that to stimulate or challenge. But I was in a country and I was happy and everything. But what I realized is that what I wanted to do was in my heart. So it never changed. The passion never decreased or anything, because I kept telling myself, I am going to do this. Okay. And my heart was set on that. And it didn't matter where I was. I had to achieve it. And so,
okay. I like that. Okay, so we're 2 minutes in, I'm already learning new information. So I didn't know that you were born in the city and moved to the country.
Right.
So what was the name of the town that you moved to?
Penal.
Okay.
And then another town was Point Fortin. That's deeper in the south.
In the bush.
Deeper country.
Okay. Got it. Okay. What was the biggest difference for you when you moved from the city to the country? You mentioned a couple things like playgrounds and things like that.
Yeah. There was no entertainment and facilities to my biggest thing was growing, being creative, being able to expand and extend myself and, have friends and, there was none of that. It was just you and your family and other people in the district, but it really was not a great, I guess, stage in my life to develop. It really was not. Okay. But I persevered because I made up my mind, Curtis, I'm not giving up, period. Yeah. And one of the most beautiful things is that when I was like 13, 14, I saw my wife. She was a young girl then. And later in life, I said, God works in mysterious ways. Because if I didn't go there, I would never have met her. Okay. So, wow. That was a beautiful part of life.
Okay. So I want to come back to that. What are some of the things that you and your siblings used to do growing up? Like what was fun like for you guys?
Fun was, mostly playing outside, climbing trees, picking mangoes, just little things, running up and down. I used to have a bicycle and I would ride that bicycle wherever I wanted to go. And that was fun. Yeah. It was nice outside and everything else. Yeah. It was fun.
It just felt more free then in those days than it definitely seems now. Would you agree?
Oh, yes. I had liberty to do whatever, and my father and mother, they never really put too many restraints on us once we were outside and safe, because it wasn't a place you could really get in trouble unless you were really stupid, you could, but it really wasn't a place.
So obviously I've met all of your siblings. How would you describe the different personalities between, but you know what, I was going to, section out the boys from the girls, but as you think about the personalities of your siblings, how would you describe the different personalities from, Uncle Mackie, Uncle Skid, Auntie Sherma, Auntie Marva, Auntie Dawn? Like, how would you can have, one couple can have many kids, but they all are different from one another, right? Just the same way that I'm different from my siblings and vice versa. How would you describe the personality of your siblings?
Well, my elder brother, as I said, he's deceased. He was aggressive, but protective of us as his siblings, and plus his parents. He was very protective, and the other siblings, they were not very aggressive, but they were not shy, But my youngest sister, the youngest of us, I always... Auntie Merlin, she's retired Army now, but in those days, I kept her under my wing. I felt as if I was obligated to take care of her. Nobody told me to, I just felt I should. And but for the most part, they were not really aggressive like that, but they could hold their own. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So amongst the cousins, Uncle Mackie is like the fun uncle, right? He's like loud. He is energetic, hyper. Was he always this way? I can't imagine he started this way at 50, right? So he must have always been this way.
Let me answer your question by giving you an example. I remember once my mom, she would wash her clothes and starch them and iron them. And so Monday mornings, when you get up, go to school, everything is crisp and clean. And so anyway, we all went off to school. Now, we used to go to different schools. But anyway, when we went to meet him in the evening at his school, he was like a pile of dirt. Oh my God. And I wonder what happened. What happened? But that's his personality. Yeah. He would go and, just play. And yeah. He's a fun guy. So, he didn't even think he was doing anything wrong by, this is Monday, So, but anyway, so that's his personality. He was always like that, fun and, whatever it is. And, and he would do things that would make you laugh or make you hurt too, because like, gosh, we got to defend him. That's our brother. Yeah. We got to defend him,
Nobody else will, so you got to. I got you. Auntie Sherma seems like she's always expressive, but seems like the creative, like one of the more creative ones in the family. Is that what you saw growing up as well too? Or because she takes a lot of pictures now, like she's always got a camera on her. Like what was her personality like growing up?
Her personality was one where she always felt that she wants to take the lead, but at the same time, there's part of her that needed help. Okay. You know? And sometimes the help will kind of overstep the other part of her. But she was really good. She was a good young lady growing up, and everything else. Took care of her family. Talked too much, but still,
Nancy Dawn seems like she just always seemed pretty even keel energy wise, steady.
Sort of, but the only thing with Auntie Dawn is that she was a little secretive, so
quiet.
You don't know what's going on. You don't know what. You don't know. You open that door and you might be shocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got you.
Really don't know.
No, that's good. It's just always interesting to me because whenever you all are together, like the energy dynamics are just so different from one another, right?
Right.
On here I've told stories about Uncle Skid and like just like my relationship with him and like how he showed up. Just very calm and collected. He reminds me actually of Kerwin, where he's very protective but quiet, watching everything. Very, very protective. And so that's cool, man. What was life with your parents like? How was that growing up? Like how were they?
My parents, of course, they differed from each other just a tad bit. Yeah. But my father, he taught me something in life which I have. I'm still living it out. To protect your wife. Okay. Protect your wife, protect your children. You can't not protect them. That's why you're there. You're there to take care of your family. And he's always shown me the road, and so I have always kept that, as if it seemed as if I'm keeping a promise, but there was no promise. He just told me, this is, and I saw it in action that he would protect his wife and protect his children and even other family members, but us. He kept us together, and he was tough at times, but he was a fun dad. He used to go out and drink, and and come home and be loud, and just like Uncle Mackie, come and be loud and play music, and but then at the same time, he was very industrious and productive as a worker. He provided for his family. Early in life, he bought a car, and we were able to move around and all that business. So he was a good dad like that. And my mom, she too worked very hard. She was a supervisor in the telephone company, and she worked very hard to take care of us, make sure that we had what we needed, the clothes to go to school and shoes and books and whatever it was necessary. So,
okay. Now, you mentioned that you guys all went to different schools. Is that because of ages? And so like, or like, what was the reason? I mean, that's a lot of kids to go to different schools. It seems like it'd be easier just to like.
I don't know. I cannot answer that question. I just don't know. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Question. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
I just know we ended up at different schools, and the schools were not too far from each other. Okay. But the girls went to one school, and then another one of them went to another school. I don't know how it ended up like that, but it was okay.
Okay. And then, so personality-wise, who would you say your personality is most like of your parents, or which attributes did you take from each parent? Like, what do you have from your dad? What do you have from your mom, you feel like?
My dad, as I said, taught me to be protective of my family, to take care of your family. Don't shout at your wife. Don't beat your wife. Don't get so angry that you start pointing your finger in her face and making her feel bad, and because that's your wife, you know what I mean? And so I learned that from him. Not that you have to be a softie and let her walk all over you, but that was just the dynamic I learned from him, to be and then to be productive. He never missed a day's work unless he was definitely sick and in bed or something. And I saw that man, he got burnt in the oil field. He used to work in the oil fields, and for some reason a tank blew up and he got burned, like 60% burns, and he had to be out for several months and all that. And when he caught himself, he went right back to work as if he never missed a day. You know, and that woke me up. Like, how can a person do that? You know? And I saw him, you know, the one thing that remained with me with him is that I went to work with him one day, and, you know, he used to work for he used to work for a company that read the meters, you know, electrical meters, and measure how much, you know, electricity you used and so on and so forth. You know, and I remember that. And I saw him sweating one day. I mean, dripping wet. And I was driving the car because I used to take him from one place to another to do the job, you know, nice. And everything. Yeah. So, and when I saw him sweating like that, I remember telling myself, I said, wait, he's doing that for me to go to college. That is awesome. That I never forgot that. And that's when I really learned to appreciate my dad. And I saw him as a dad, not just my mother's husband.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
No,
dad,
that makes
really,
sense.
very good,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But my mom also, she was a little softer, but she was very demanding at times. You know, she would give you some slack, but then she will pull you and get you straight in a hurry, you know. And so that's what I pulled from her, to be a little more tender and all that. And then again, my mom loved to read.
Okay.
And I think I picked that up from her.
Just a little bit, yeah.
From an early age, I would go I would go to the library and get 6, 7 books. I'm talking about when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I would go to the library and get 6, 7 books and begin to
like
read.
novels and like, or like just...
Well, not later in life. I got novels and other books. You know,
So what were you reading earlier then?
Classics like Jane Eyre and, you know, all those classics. And then, you know, I started to do Sherlock Holmes, you know, and those mystery stories and all that. But it's just the love of reading. It didn't matter what type of literature, but I learned to read and to read deeply, you know, and that remained with me even up to today.
Yeah, I mean, you still have a library full of books.
Yeah,
you're always reading something. When I picked you up earlier today, I mean, I was surprised that the table that you had out could support all the books that you have on it, because it's like at least 20-something books on that, you know.
Because I use them for research, you know, and so I don't want them too far away from me, so I can just grab.
They're not far. They're not far. No, that's good. Yeah, that makes sense that you would get that, you know, from her. That's cool. So one of the things that you mentioned is so you talk about music. Now, I know from the family, like, music is a huge part of what makes the richest family. You know, I recall Uncle Skid used to send like tapes for me in the mail, and like of all sorts of different artists, and a lot of artists I was introduced to there. But it started from you all growing up, you know, as I understand, like you guys used to host and do different things. So tell us about that time in life where it sounds like all of the kids were a part of these parties and different things you used to go to and host and DJ and all that stuff at.
Yeah, my younger brother, Uncle Mackie, him and my younger sister, Merlin, Auntie Merlin, they were DJs. It was fun. It was fun, especially if there's another DJ in the hall, you know, there are 2 DJs. They will try to outplay the other guy. And we used to get records from the U.S. We'd get all these records, Michael Jackson and James Brown. And we would get them, well, I guess pretty early, you know. And so when we put that on, everybody's going crazy. What is that? You know, and stuff. We used to play in teenage parties and then other parties for grown-ups or whoever it might be, you know, birthday parties and all that. And it was always fun. It wasn't like competition or we're trying to outdo somebody or whatever. But for us, it was just fun. And I remember one time my sister, Merlin, she was playing at some party and the other DJ, he felt like he couldn't keep up, and in the booth playing, he said, and we had to say, hey, you're looking for trouble, man. Don't do stuff like that. But for us, it was fun, and my father was the one who actually promoted music in the family. My father is the one, and he would buy records for us, and he would buy turntable, he would buy a speaker here and there, he would buy different things, and
So that's interesting. So I think about, Kerwin, my brother, your son, right, who's like so into music, and it feels like he definitely got it from the family. Mm-hmm. I love music. I got it, obviously, from your family as well, or your side of the family. It's not something that he feels like he can ever leave. Like Kerwin, I mean, it's in him, right? Right. And so I wonder, do you miss it? Do you miss music and being,
Yes. Yes, and yes. I do. Although I don't have enough time to sit and listen to it and all that business,
Because you spend that time now studying.
I'm mostly studying. But if I want music, I come to your house and I hear music
all the time. All the time.
Whew, this is so everywhere. Nice, and I just relax and listen.
I can't exist without it.
Right. But I love music. I think all my family loves music.
Yeah. Okay. So then, at what point did you meet Mom?
Well, as I said, early in life, when I was like 13 years old, we had moved from the city to the country. Okay. And where we moved, she used to come from her little village to where I was, in that little town. It was a little hub, and she would come to go to the market, and stuff like that. And I would see her and like, oh my goodness, you got to be kidding. And nobody's talking to her. And I was like, well, I couldn't care less if nobody, but that's better for me if nobody's talking to her, So anyway, that's where I met her and we started to talk, but she wouldn't pay too much attention to me. Although I felt now that she was paying attention, but not saying anything. You know what I mean? But then I moved away from there and I went to another place to live, and a few years later, like 5-6 years later, somebody in her community passed away. And that person was a friend of my parents. Mm-hmm. So my dad took us to the funeral. And so I'm in the cemetery and everything. And I'm just looking around. You're a young guy, 15, 16, and you're looking around. Just and
observing.
All of a sudden, I see this person. I said, you got to be kidding.
Yeah.
Now, I really didn't recognize who it was right away. I said, oh, man, look at this girl. You know how guys are, they just say girl, they tell your friend, man, she's fly, man, wow. But anyway, so then I asked the friend of mine who lives there, I asked him, I said, hey, who is this girl right here? He says, that's Velma. I said, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. She looked so gorgeous.
A couple
so
years,
pretty.
a lot have changed.
No, I see her as a woman now. She's grown now. She's 20, 21 or whatever. Wow, couldn't believe it. But it really was her. And I said, you know what? I'm going to latch on to this girl, man, because she is it.
Yeah.
Period. The funny thing about that story is that I was dating my friend's sister at that time. We would teachers together and stuff like that. But anyway, so when we got back in the car, I told him, I said, listen, when we go back home, your sister better look for somebody else, because I found my, that was so cool, but it was, but I said, she better look for somebody else because
that was the right thing to do, right thing to say.
I got me, so.
You properly set expectations, you let them know, like, hey man,
we're done. And when I went back, I kind of told her, I told her, I said, hey, it's done, so. But it was a good reason for that because I had to pursue Velma. Of course. I had to focus on her and everything. So,
I mean, and in August of this year, you guys would be 55 years.
55. Could you imagine? But anyway, yes.
Wow.
The answer is yes.
Wow.
55 years. That's why I am preparing for a marriage seminar at the end of this month, 28th. So that's one of the questions that I have to explain.
Okay.
How do you stay married for 55 years?
Wow.
That's
How do you stay married for 55 years?
How do I stay married? I was thinking about that, Curtis. You know, you have to love a person. You know, not just emotionally, but you have to be willing to meet their needs, willing to support, willing to sacrifice, willing to, if it's 2:00 in the morning, you get up and go. You don't question anything. You just have to go because for me, excuse me, that's my wife. So I have to take care of her. You know, all that comes from my dad. You know, I need to take care of her. And so that's what I feel that in times of, another thing is that when she was pregnant, you know, that's when she needed me. I think a woman needs a man to support her when she needs that support. You know, not only cooking or cleaning, but excuse me, but these are the moments I think that really count.
Yeah.
And that has helped us through because she saw that I really meant business.
Yeah. Yeah. So you obviously knew from when you saw her again at the funeral of all places, you know, that this is
it.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
I had no, and up to today, I feel the same way. I really feel like,
beautiful, man.
wow, this is wonderful right here. You know, we got older now and everything, but still, it does not take away how I feel about her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah. So in the early 70s, you all moved from, you know, Trinidad to America. Whose idea was it? Like, how did that come about? How did you go? You know, was it always something that you wanted to do? Like when you were growing up, was America something that you just were interested in, or like how did that happen?
Well, she loved to travel.
Okay.
And she used to go, you know, she was a school teacher and she and
yeah, so both teachers.
Yes, we were both teachers.
Not at the same school though.
No.
Okay.
No, thank God, no. I probably wouldn't do any work, you know. But yes, so she was, and she and her friends used to go up the islands in the Caribbean, you know. She would go up the islands and spend a week or whatever during the August vacation and all that. So there was one time she said, I'm going to America. Now, the funny thing about that, she says, I'm going to America. And that's just the time she started to talk to me. Because she's not a person who used to talk much.
I can see that.
You know what I'm saying? And even now, sometimes she doesn't talk much. But that's the one time she started talking to me. And then all of a sudden, she's telling me she's going to America. You're going to where? To New York. And in my mind, like, wait, you got to be kidding.
Now, was this like another vacation, or was this?
It started off as a vacation.
Okay.
It started off as a vacation. She would go. And anyway, she came to America and all that business. And you know, the thing about that, Curtis, is that she came to America, but I never gave up.
Okay.
I didn't know what was taking place in America. I had no clue.
Because you had never been.
No, don't know. But I didn't feel like we were disengaged. That's my personal feeling, you know.
Yeah.
And then one day, maybe 3-4 months later, she wrote me a letter, and I almost went through the roof because I said, you know, wow, I was right all the time, you know, and everything. So anyway, that's how it is. She came back and we got engaged and went from there.
Wow. That's great. I mean, hey, I appreciate you guys staying together and figuring it out. How did your family react to you moving? Because a lot of times, right, like, you talk about your family and you guys are really close knit. You know, spend a lot of time together. You move to different places, and that just tightened the bond even more. You know, from the cities to the country, and so on and so forth. And I don't know if you guys are one of the first couples in your family, or first to get married, but you were definitely the first one to move to the States. Now that's changed. There's so many of the family that lives. I mean, actually, everybody lives here now, right? But you all were the first. You all were the pioneers. were they like super happy and very supportive? Like, oh yeah, go to America and like, you know, figure it out for us. Or were they like, what do you mean you're leaving? What was the reaction, if you can recall, you know, at that time? Like, what was that like? What was the receptivity to the idea of like, we're going to America?
Well, you know, I always wanted, that's my life. I like a new experience.
Okay.
For instance, this dialogue right here is a new experience for me, you know. So I always love a new experience. I love creativity. I love intelligence, you know, and so I always love those things. Those are challenges for me to cross a hurdle, you know. So I always wanted to come to America because I always felt like that's what we were hearing. You know, it's a land of opportunity and this, that, the other, and all the whole nine, you know. And so I always wanted to come here. So when we got married and she came to America, I was very happy. I was super happy because I saw that opportunity. And not only to come to America, but what I could do.
Of course.
You know, so I immediately, I came maybe 6 months later or so. I had to wait on a visa and all that business. That was the worst 6 months I ever spent in my life because she's not here and I want to come to America and nothing seems to be moving. Anyway, I came and everything else. And I started the minute I landed and I started to breathe a little and I started to work because I started to work on Wall Street and everything, and I got a little job. I didn't care what it was, but I was working, you know, and that's a start. And the minute I did that and I settled down, I went to Brooklyn College.
Right.
And before you know it, within 3 months, I got matriculated. And I didn't know how that happened. You know, I said, well, that's the hand of God because anyway, I got matriculated, which means I can take any course I want in the school. Wow. And that was huge for me, you know, because I had more choices now and everything. But coming to America was wonderful for me. It gave me a lot of hope and vision, you know, and I could see now a lot of runway in front of me. Finally, so now I can do what you know, you're moving from the city to the country. Yeah. It tightened me up. Now I have all the freedom I want.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Were your sisters and brothers and parents like
supportive?
Like supportive?
Yes, or very supportive. All of them were very supportive. They were just happy because I think somewhere along the line they felt that they would be here too. Okay. You know what I mean? But they never really articulated that. But you know, that's what I felt. They're my siblings. I know them.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha. Okay. So get to New York, and then did you immediately feel that pressure of like, okay, let's get everybody here, or was it? I mean, or did everybody just kind of raise their hands? Because it feels like between 1970 and call it like 85. I mean, the influx of Richards.
Everybody came.
I mean, even Mom's family as well too, right? Like, I mean, it was just an influx, right? So.
Yes, they came because the opportunity was there, and you know, like Auntie Merlin, she's the one I was focusing on mostly, and she came, and she came on a vacation also, and then you know she was able to get her permanent visa expeditiously. And then she joined the army and all that business. And then Auntie Sherma, she went to Canada, to Toronto, and Uncle Skid went to Toronto also. It was easier for them in Toronto in those days to get a permanent residence, you know. So they went there, and Uncle Mackie, he went to Canada also. He went to Toronto because of his wife. You know, his wife's family, they are in Toronto, so they went there.
And then they moved to Vancouver.
He's now in Vancouver, But that's how we all came.
Okay, got it. So I know we stayed there for like the first couple of years of like Kerwin and Kathy and myself. Like we were all born in New York. And, you know, then we moved obviously to Georgia. So I tell people that all the time because like sometimes they may, you know, joke about like some words I pronounce or just whatever. And I tell them like, look, man, sometimes I'm trying to figure out my own identity, right? Where it's like I was born in New York, stayed there for a couple of years, grew up in Decatur. right? But I tell people I went to school in Decatur, but I came home to Trinidad. Like at home, the food, the accent, the culture,
in the house,
the house was 1,000% Trinidad, but school was America. It was Decatur, and like you're kind of balancing those two identities on a daily basis, right? And so, what were some of the challenges for you coming to a new country and engaging with cultures? Obviously, like New York is pretty open to the individual different culture, but there had to be some learning curves for you coming to a whole new country, right? What was that for you?
Well, several. Number one, to settle in a different country
and culture
with a different culture, and the way they speak, it's different. You have to listen differently, and you have to be open to accept new things around you. You know what I'm saying? So that was a huge challenge because I had to step in and make sure that she is settled, and then the kids started to come. Kerwin came, Kathy came, you came, and so now I have a family. It's not only both of us now as a family, and how do we settle down this family, and all that business, So to me, that was the biggest challenge, to be able to settle a family, and young kids growing up. I have to find time to spend with them. New York is a busy place, and I was working on Wall Street. It's very busy, and still you have to find time for your family. And so that was a huge challenge to me. Everything else was fine. I mean, working and transportation and everything, and learning the train system and the bus system. I mean, all I was part of it. And then again, too, I didn't have any friends here. I didn't, all my friends were, and then I didn't have that. So now I have to talk to people. They're not my friends, but I'm talking to them, and all that. But all those things, and you need people in your life. You do need people.
Absolutely.
So, but those are to me, those are the biggest challenges to be able to, to settle down. And take care of my family. And even leaving from New York to come to Georgia, it was another headache or a challenge, to leave the North to come to the South. Southern life is different. I tell folk that, but they don't want to understand what I'm saying. But it's fine, and then I have an accent. So then like, he has an accent, and they tend to, okay. All right, he's different from us. You know what I mean? Like that. And they don't understand how that affects you. But they're just themselves, So I had to learn to accept all that and move on, from there.
Yeah. What are some incorrect assumptions that you feel people make when they hear your accent?
I think they don't feel I'm educated. That's the first thing.
Interesting. Okay.
Secondly, I don't know how to speak well. The interesting thing about that, Curtis, is that I've been in places, and I do this. I do this on purpose. Sometimes I would go into whatever session, a Bible study or a forum or wherever it might be, and I would sit quietly and say nothing, and everybody would be talking and saying all this. And I'm listening to them because I know what some are saying. They are way off course. They're not even close to the middle of the road, And I'm listening to them. And then somebody may ask me a question, or I will interject and say, well, what about this? And then everybody gets quiet. And what about that? And they
show your intellect.
So now, wait a minute. This is the same guy we just looked down on, right? And hear what he's saying now, And so I was able to build some type of rapport with people, and respect. The respect came from there. But still, even up to now, I just joined a class recently, and they heard me introduce myself and to my wife. But they didn't give me the respect that others deserved. In fact, one guy asked me twice to leave the class.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did it in a nice way, but nevertheless, he was saying
Still asking that.
to leave. You know, now it's different because now I'm breaking down script here, and he never heard this before. So now he's like, oh, you know what I mean? So that's the challenge. When people hear an accent, you know, they tend to feel that first thing they shoot at is that, nah, you can't be educated. That's the first thing. And it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. Is that I mean, I would imagine like that you grow up in a place where everyone is like you. Everywhere you look, I mean, like you don't notice differences, or maybe differences mean something different in Trinidad, right?
Right.
It's probably like a class or something like that, right? But everyone's black. Everyone is speaking patois. Everybody's eating the same. You know, it's all the same, right? Everybody knows the same people. And then you come to a place where now you are the other, right? And it seems like you're trying to understand the other people as well as what it means to be the other, because that's also a new identity that you're having to create for yourself, which is like, okay, you have to get comfortable being the other person. Right. And that's like, I've experienced that a couple times here and there, right? You know, again, like growing up, having such I think when you are a first generation American, you have a diverse background just by default, right? Because it doesn't matter if your parents are Hispanic or if they're from Trinidad or if they're from Africa or any other country, like you're growing up where there's a certain part of your heritage that is one way. And then as a first generation American, you feel like you don't really fit in any crowd, right? Like, okay, people from the home country won't necessarily see you as like native to that country because you were born, you know, in Kings County Hospital. But then people where you live don't necessarily see you native either because like, well, you know, like in Decatur, multiple generations of families have lived on the same street or in the same house. And so they're like, yeah, your family just got here in like, you know, early 90s. We've been here, right? Or as they say in Atlanta, like, you know, we grew here, you flew here, right? And so, you know, the reason why I bring that up is because getting comfortable being the other, like, it seems like that's that can be problematic. How did you get comfortable? How did you get comfortable in that identity, right? Of being different and feeling that difference. Like, what did you do to cope? Yeah.
Well, there's several things. One was being confident. I have to be confident at all times, no matter if you feel my accent is a problem to you or whatever. But I walk around with confidence. I'm confident because my kids need to see me confident. My family needs to see me confident as a man. One guy told me once, he says, "You're not black enough." And that shocked me because I was born black, I grew up black. Now you tell me, what are you talking about? You know, but I don't even think he knew maybe he knew what he was talking about. Yeah. I never asked him to explain it. But you see, that was a learning curve. You know, I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. I don't want to prove anything to anyone. Yeah. Because then that means I'm doubting myself, and I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm not proud, or I don't have a great big ego or whatever have you, but I needed to make a statement, and I have lived that statement every day. Yeah. And I am going to be myself. Yeah. My children, I want to teach them to be themselves. My grandkids, they need to grow up knowing that they need to be themselves, you know, and not depend on somebody's opinion. Yes, people's opinion matter. Don't get me wrong, because we live in a community of people. Yeah. You know, it matters. But at the same time, you are yourself. Yeah. And you're not selfish. You know, you don't have to have a big ego, but you don't have to walk around with feeling inferior. That's what I'm saying to anyone. You don't have to.
Okay. That's good.
Never.
Yeah. And you spend a lot of time on self-development, right? And I want to come back to that, towards the end. But, in I guess like 1980-ish, you made a decision that really changed the trajectory of your life, right? Which is you became a Christian, right? And at that point, well, I guess you technically, right? Like you were Roman Catholic, up until that point,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And then you changed that perspective, and I feel like that shifted a lot in your life, because up to that point, I guess you have been working on Wall Street, right? You have a job, you've got a focus, and then it feels like, within the next 10 years, you started getting involved in ministry, Good Tidings, you're doing Bible studies, like your trajectory and your career path, or maybe your career aspirations, I'm assuming started shifting. And then by the time we moved to Atlanta to Decatur, your focus seemed like it was different in terms of like what you wanted to do with your time. Tell me about that shift and how that impacted you, impacted your relationships with your family, impacted your focus and your career. Like, 'cause that's a pretty big shift, right?
Big.
Yeah. Cut up a pool table in the process.
I did a whole lot of good things. It seemed wrong at the time, but they were good because it kept me focused. As I said earlier, I never gave up on trying to be better or successful. I never gave up on that passion to be creative, to be educated. That's one. That was a huge goal in my life, to be educated. So that's why I said when I came from Trinidad, the thing about that, I just want to go back, a step back. We were born, we grew up in poverty, which I didn't realize at the time, because we're just happy. I mean, we just kids growing up, and then I progressed and moved on and went to high school, and then I came to Brooklyn. I went to Brooklyn College. I went to Baruch College in Manhattan. I got my undergraduate degree in business management, and then I'm trying to give you the picture where the success really mattered, and the shift. So I was on Wall Street. I started work on Wall Street. I became a manager, one of the managers in the bank on Wall Street. I used to work at One Wall Street, which was the hub of Wall Street, and and all those things, and I really started to make progress because now I'm reporting to a VP in the company, and so on. I started to make more money and climbing the ladder and all that. And all kind of racial tensions were taking place, but I'm totally focused on my goal, because I have a wife and I have kids. That drove me,
Yeah.
So I got promoted now. And in the middle of all of that, that's when I became a Christian, right? I received Christ as my Savior. I became a Christian. And then I realized that something was taking place with me that I don't know. And up to today, I am at loss for words to explain that. But I remember that there was a point in time when I had to make a choice. Do you want Wall Street, or do you want the ministry? What do you want? And it's nobody asking me any questions. It's just within me. That's within me. And I have this battle. Well, not really a battle, but I had to make a choice.
Yeah.
Do you want, Wall Street with all the money and the this, that, the other, And it's very... Wall Street was a real challenge, because I used to get, at the end of the year, they used to give bonuses in those days. I don't know what they do now. But the lowest bonus I ever received is $5,000. Wow. Like every Christmas, I get, So that was a real pull, and then there was plenty of money being made, And I thought about that, all that money, to leave all that money to do ministry. You have no clue what that is about. I didn't see any money in ministry.
Right.
I just didn't see it. But that was where I felt the Lord was leading me.
Yeah.
And I told him, no, I don't want the Wall Street part. I just left and I started to do ministry.
Why did you feel like you had to make a choice between the two?
I couldn't live to, it's standing in the middle of a door, I don't know, on a train platform, you're on a train platform and the doors open and stops. You put one foot out and you have another foot in.
Yeah.
And at some point, the conductor is going to say, watch the closing doors. And you have your both feet have to be in one place.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way I can explain it. And so then, boom, I had to make a choice. There's no other way. I had to make a choice.
Okay.
So I let Wall Street go. And then I chose the ministry.
Got it.
But let me say something else because it's very important to me to say this, There was even a bigger shift in my life after that.
Yeah.
Because I continued studying. When I was in my early 60s, I think. Yeah, I went back and I took some courses, seminary courses, and so on and so on and so forth, And I got 2 masters. And I said, you know what? I can go for a doctorate because it's not much longer. And that really, to me, that was the epitome of, that was the height I really wanted to reach. That, to me, that was the ultimate. And I said, I am going to do this. And I actually, I actually did it. And I got that doctorate. And once I got that and I saw PhD behind my name, I said, good. So now what that did for me is open doors. Okay. So many doors were open just because of those 3 letters, PhD. Yeah. That opened so many doors. But that to me, I got it and so on. But I felt like I accomplished. Look where I came from.
Right.
In the dirt. Look where I am now. And to me, I'm still there, but it's good.
Yeah. No, you bring up some great points, man. So
I'm glad my kids could appreciate it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. No, it's obvious, right? I think it inspires, each of us, right? Because, each generation wants to surpass the one that, the previous one, right? And so the bar gets higher and higher. And I tell London that now. I'm like, hey, London, here's what my dad did, here's what I'm doing. And hey, I'm still going. I'm just getting started, bro. I'm like, hey, I'm going. So good luck. Okay. My goal is to, when it's done, when my time's up, for London to be like, whew, okay, that was a really, really high bar, right? Yeah. But hopefully I started him at a place where he can achieve, because that's the goal, I think, for sure. There's another side to that, right? Which is you're an innovator. You're naturally an innovator. I think about so many different places that you've been in your life. You just naturally think about things differently. It's just the way you're wired. And that inspires a lot of people, right? So if we fast forward through a couple of things, I got a couple more questions I want to ask. If you think about, came here, you went to the first church, you started, identifying different ideas and opportunities. I remember back in Good Tidings in New York with Awana and how involved you were with that program. Then you came here, and I remember you doing the prisons ministry, and every Tuesday you'd be, down at the prisons, doing ministry there, right? Nobody was asking you to do this. It's something that you just kind of, created. Then I think about you moving to the third church that you were at, and how you started setting up the missions ministry there. And then you developed a relationship with Nairobi, Kenya, and you would travel there, raise money, et cetera. Then you started thinking about hey, we should expand. And I went away to college. And I remember I came back And all of a sudden, that church is now looking at a new building. That I remember I went on a tour with you all. I'm like, what? Y'all looking at a new building? Like I thought the last one was pretty fine, but no, you guys are looking at another building. And then you decided not to get another building. You know, we're actually going to add on to this one, right? And so then there's a huge campaign to do that. Like it takes vision and it takes initiative to do those things. And then, you know, you become pastor. You're doing that for many years. That season ends, and then you're still not done. You then move to Bermuda, right? And now you're doing consulting and your work. And so like you're constantly innovating and finding different levels that you want to progress and achieve. And so the first part of my question is like, for some people, that innovation is inspiring. For other people, that's challenging. For other people, that's disconcerting. For other people, that is frustrating. For other people, that is confusing. It's scary. And they naturally push back. And I saw different times in your life amongst all those different interactions where certain people were not as open to your innovation and your dreams and the things that you saw possible. How did that make you feel? How did you, because, I experienced that. Right. And so like it's interesting that, I think about the verse that a prophet is not without honor except in his own, country and amongst his own people. Right. And so how does that feel? Right. Like, how does it feel to, we talk about being the other, but in this case, like you're an innovator and you see something clearly and you're trying to get people there, but it's not appreciated by the very people you're trying to help. How do you deal with that?
Keep going. It's that simple. Keep going. Because, see, the vision and your passion belongs to you. It doesn't belong to somebody else. Nobody can give you passion. Mm-hmm. Nobody can give you the tools to be innovative or to be a visionary. Nobody can do that. That has to come from within you. Mm-hmm. Your inspiration and the things you see. Nobody else sees that. You see it. Mm-hmm. And if you see it, then you go after it. Mm-hmm. You can't rely. I have learned not to rely on too many voices because those voices are speaking from their perspective. You're not talking to me personally,
Your limitations are your limitations. They're not my limitations.
Right. I'm going, regardless of what you say or how you feel, I'm not going to be rude or vindictive or anything, but Fenton Richards is going to get what he has to get. It's as simple as that. I'm going, The thing about all that is that I'm saying all that because there were times when I felt let down by people who I thought were on my side, and they just were not. And I got to discover that later on in the trying to build something, I'm a visionary and I see things and I get a couple of people together and say, look, this is what it is. And I think they are on board, but then they lose heart because they can't see it. So I can't stop because you can't see. I have to find a way somehow to get whatever it is done. And then you say, oh, wow, and then some people want to take ownership. Well, take ownership if you want to.
Because that's not what you're doing anyway.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, but how I dealt with that is just to keep going and praying. And then I have a wife who is very supportive. I think that is a very important part of
That's
it.
fair.
That's the playground. And then my kids were always supportive of what I was doing. They never told me, no, don't do this or whatever have you, if they give me advice and stuff like that, yourself and Kerwin, I can talk to, and that is huge for me, especially at my age now, It's very important. I can talk to my sons and I can hear them and they can hear me, and so I don't feel discouraged, because when I look back, I have seen so much and I know how much has been achieved.
Yeah.
I went to Kenya and I've trained pastors. I've helped build churches. This is not showtime, but I'm just telling you what happened.
Just information.
You know, I've done all this stuff, man. You know, a lot of people, I've taught so many different seminars and raised up people to do the groundwork, and they have built churches and all kinds of stuff. And they had taken, I have nothing to do with their churches other than I know they're pastors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you look back and you're glad now. I'm glad that I never gave up.
Yeah.
I didn't give up.
Thanks for that. That's good. That's good. Couple other questions. One, did you ever feel betrayed or angry during that process?
Yes.
How'd you handle that?
Not angry. I try not to get angry.
Okay.
Because anyway, that's a whole different subject.
Okay.
But I never really got angry.
But you felt betrayed.
Yeah. And frustrated at certain points because I think that you're supporting me, then I get to find out that you're not really supporting me, you know, and I have to start from ground zero, you know. But there's always a way. I found that out. If you want to deliver, you will find a way. If there's a roadblock here, well, listen, put in the address on your GPS, and GPS will lead you another way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so you see what I'm saying? So yeah, I have felt frustrated and felt let down and all those things like that, you know. And Curtis, I tell you what, the people who have let me down, I feel that they are, because I left them with everything. I you know, buildings were built and everything else, ministry and everything else. But now they are having to manage that.
Yeah.
But the thing about that, they are not doing anything extra. They're not looking to build more. They're not looking because they don't have the vision.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a lot like, to use another analogy, right? Like I think about Apple, right? When Steve Jobs was the founder, he was the creator, he was the dreamer. You're a dreamer, right? And he saw that vision and he built Apple from nothing, right, into the world's most successful and profitable company, right? I think it might have been the first $1 trillion company. And then, you know, he leaves Apple, you know, they start going down. He comes back to Apple and, you know, they do tremendous. And what we know today of Apple is what he did, right? And what he brought to the table. And then he passed away, I want to say maybe like, you know, 2013 or something like that. And the level of innovation that's come out of Apple, it's not the same as when he was around. Right. And he had already thought of so many other products that we're now starting to get that he had identified in like the early 90s, which is crazy to think. But it feels like a lot of what you're saying where, you know, the current CEO and that team, they're managing innovation that he thought of years ago, but they're not able to continue doing it. Right. And so it's just a tough place, you know, but it's being a pioneer and being a dreamer, it can be really difficult. It can be a really lonely road. Sure. Right. And so you talk about some of the things that help you, which is like, you just have this internal desire. Obviously you're a person of prayer and faith, and you have a really supportive wife. And so you talk about your support system in general that kind of helps you, you know, keep moving forwards. The other side of that, which is one of my final questions is, so you were in your 60s when you got your PhD, right? And, you know, you continued to go to Africa, you know, you continued to, do seminars. I think at one point you were doing it in Jamaica and Trinidad. You were, you know, you might still be on the phone with them on a weekly basis for like doing different Bible studies. You know, you talk about this marriage seminar that comes up every time I come over. You're in the library and then you're coming out of the library because you're just studying something. You always got something you're about to do. Right. You know, you HOA president, you know, I mean, like you're always, you know, doing something. And so my question for you is like, why? Like, what is it that pushes you to continue? Like, where's that coming from? Like, what at this age, a lot of people could just like say, okay, I'm retiring, I'm settled, I'm good. What is it for you that makes you continue to, you know, pursue the next thing?
I don't know. That is the easiest and the best answer I can give you. I don't know. I have tried to slow down. I have tried to change. I have tried to say, okay, I've told my wife that so many times, and she says, "You always say that." So I don't really know what it is that causes me to look for new avenues of vision and to help. I think what drives me most of all is people.
Okay.
Let me make it plain. People. People need help. People need advice. People need direction. People need love. People need support. People need to feel like they are appreciated. People need to know that there's somebody who cares about them, who can hear what they're saying, not what just talking, but to really hear their heart. People need that. And I have discovered that. And that's what keeps me going, because I feel like I'm always there to help somebody. Always, always. I started a Bible study with a church in Trinidad. This month is our 7th year.
Okay.
It started with 7 people. I could have easily given up because I live here in the United States. They're in Trinidad. I could have said, you know what, I see you guys. You're good to go. After 2 years, I could have said that. But I felt driven. What I saw is, yes, Bible study and so on and so forth, but people need to know. If you are a Bible student, you need to know something about the Bible. You can't say, you know what I'm saying? So that drove me, and it still drives me to help people, even in Africa. Right. This young girl wrote me this past week. I taught in that church years ago. But for some reason, I don't know, something happened with her and the government anyway, took away all the living place. They broke down anyway. And now she has no place to live, right? She has no place to live. Or actually, she found a place to live. But she says, Pastor Fenton, I need your help and advice.
Yeah.
That, to me, is a major achievement. After all these years, you remember some of the things that I taught you, and you feel comfortable enough to come back and say, look, you know what, I need your help.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. This was such a good conversation. I think about your story, and like it's the word that you always taught us, that was like the most important thing to you, which was progress.
Yes.
You always talk about progress. And like whatever you're doing, like progress in it. And service is like the other side of that, right? Like the family is just a family with a heart of service. And so it's really cool to see you kind of reflect on all that and see the progress that you've made in your life from where you started and to, your constant pursuit of success and achievement and it's personal achievement, right? Personal items. It's not necessarily for others. Right, it's for you. Right, you want to help others, but your purpose is not to. Your intent is not necessarily to get the accolades. You have them, but that's not the purpose of it. And so, thank you so much for coming on to Crucial Conversations, man, and just walking through your life and your story. It's really great, to have the personal conversation. We can stay here for hours, right? But we do have studio time limits. So, but we can always continue the conversation. But thank you so much for just your words of wisdom and just sharing your story with the audience. So.
Well, I'm very thankful to be here and to be able to share whatever it is. I hope that these little nuggets that I've shared is helpful to somebody, because you don't give up. You just don't give up. You don't give up. Don't give up.
Well, thanks, Dad. I appreciate it.